Hey guys, it's Kat. I know it's late and I'm starting to get tired, so before I go to sleep, I could not wait to show and tell you all about a excursion that we booked to go cave tubing while we were in Belize. Um, Belize, in case you don't already know, is a country in Central America. It's on the northeastern coast, and so that makes it really convenient for the cruise lines to add that as a port stop on their Caribbean itineraries. That way you can hit it up either before or after you have a port day in Cozumel or Costa Maya or Progreso. But the only downside is that there's no pier at port that the ships can dock near, and so you have to take tender boats.
How you guys doing this morning? That's great to hear, guys. You're in the beautiful country of Belize now. Make some noise if you're happy to be here, please.
Take a look at the video and see if cave tubing might be something you'd be interested in doing in your port day in Belize, and let me know what you think. I'll be back. Okay, so let's jump right into the tour. So after a very long ride in this van from the meeting point to the cave site, we finally got to the facility. Our party had 10 people, and once we got there, we were separated into two groups. One group were people that were going tubing, and the other group was people that were going kayaking in the caves. They handed out life vests to everyone, and when we asked, they said it was mandatory that you had to wear a vest the whole time, whether you could swim or not. We were given helmets that had the headlamps on them, and just a word of advice, I already knew this from going on previous excursions of this type, that you need water shoes and not the ones that are more like socks. You need the ones with the thick soles because the trail is extremely rocky. So just keep this in mind when you're choosing which footwear to bring. If you don't happen to pack that type, they did have some for sale at one of the shops, and I believe someone said they were about $10. They look like Crocs, like knockoff Crocs, but they did work a lot better for those people that switched out from the sock type.
More than likely, somebody was standing up here and broke his ice cream sundae for a turtle, right? Follow me this way, folks.
Okay, so this was quite a hike, but I will say that the guide is going to do a lot of talking. He's going to point out things of interest to try and make the time pass quickly. They're going to explain a little bit about the land, the person that owns the land, the climate, the different flowers, and even why the ants on the trail were all carrying little green leaves. So it didn't seem like the 40 minutes that it actually was. We walked through caverns, over bridges, up and down ladders. We did stop, take a little break inside the caves to view different rock formations. Some of them resembled animals, and whatever you can imagine in your own mind. But word of caution, please, please, please do bring some form of bug spray. And I'm talking the full strength kind with DEET, because you are going to get eaten alive if you don't. There were several people in our party that couldn't really enjoy the hike because they were constantly getting bitten and slapping themselves to try to kill mosquitoes, and it did get annoying. And after the tour, you saw that a lot of the people were covered in red bites, and so it just looked really uncomfortable. Now, so at some point during the hike, you're going to get to a part where you're going to get wet, at least from the waist down, depending on how tall you are and whether or not it's rained a lot the previous days, raising the water level in the different streams and rivers. You're going to hold on to a rope for balance. Now, I'm going to warn you, the water is pretty cold, but at this point, you've been walking so long that it's pretty refreshing. And just some advice, this tour, I would say, is best for the more active tourists that don't have any real health issues that's going to prevent you from being able to hike long distances without discomfort. You don't necessarily have to be able to swim, but if you can swim and you wish to, you're going to be given opportunities to do so later on in the tour, as long as your tour guide permits it. Okay, now, so I am going to apologize that the video is a little shaky at this point. It was kind of difficult to balance using just the rope with one hand and then holding the GoPro with the left hand. So as I got closer and closer to the end of the rope, it just was so rocky and I was having a hard time. So I'm sorry about that. Now, after a little more hiking, we did finally arrive at the start of the cave tubing portion of the tour. Now, this particular tour operator, which was VIV Tours, they do supply you with the tubes already carried to the starting point, so you don't have to hike with them. Be on the lookout for the companies that offer this service included, or there's some that do it for a small fee if you wish to have both your hands free during the hike. At the time of this filming, I saw it was about $5 if you did the tour where they didn't take them up for you. Now here, while we're waiting for all the tubes to be checked and filled or refilled, this is your photo op. You can also body raft by laying in the current at the opening of the caves. It looked really fun, but unfortunately I was filming and taking pics, so I couldn't try it. So we got our tubes ready. They were all checked, tied together so everyone can stay together. These were the nice tubes. They don't have holes in the bottom, and they also have the headrest, which makes them really comfortable. So after he was sure that we were all connected, we took off. We floated through lots of areas that were semi-dark to dark, but I don't feel like the headlight was necessary all the time unless you wanted to see like the stalactites that were far away from you. Now here we kind of pulled over because this is the cave diving jumping spot, and I was able to climb up and get a video of the people that wanted to do this. Now after the ones that wanted to jump were finished, we took off again in our tubes to continue our float to the cave exit. Okay, full disclosure, I am claustrophobic. I do not do tight spaces of any kind, and I thought I was going to have a hard time with this tour, but as it turned out, the cave was not as narrow as I expected it to be, and there were lots of areas where you see slivers of daylight, which means you're not in total darkness, and that helps. But if you suffer from claustrophobia and just watching this video throws you into a panic, then it may or may not be for you. But just know I'm extremely claustrophobic, and I was completely fine. Once we were out of the cave portion, we enjoyed a nice leisurely float along the river. And this is where you'll see the long hike that we took in the beginning really paid off. Because some of the tours, they're going to start their tour earlier on the hills, and you're going to have a shorter float. or you're going to walk all the way to the top that we did, but then the tubing portion is going to end sooner, and you're going to see some people exit up a set of stairs near where the cave jumping took place. But our tour kept going on so that we could float all the way back to the end point. And as you can see, the scenery is beautiful. It was so relaxing just to be able to sit back and float your way around all the bends, take in the environment. You're going to see butterflies and all other sorts of insects. You're going to float along some quick rapids, and toward the end, you'll even have a chance to get out of your tube and swim a little bit if your tour guide lets you. Ours did, and so a family that was along with us, they got out and they all decided to float around. Now, you do have to leave your life vest on, but at least you can get in the water.
Forward, and this is backstroke. Whenever I say paddle forward or backstroke, just follow my lead, okay? I won't need it right now.
Now, after your float, you do have to carry your tube back to the main facility, but fortunately, the walk back to the starting point from this point is a short one. So, all in all, I really did enjoy myself on this excursion. When we got back to the main entrance, we heard a lot of different people go on and on and on about how great their guide was, but we unfortunately couldn't say the same. I think that our guide was the only bad thing about this tour. But at the end of the day, we just kind of decided to make it our mission not to let him ruin a great experience. And I figured I could just deal with that when I get back to Texas in my reviews. So we did have to wait an hour at the main entrance for the kayakers to finish their tour, since theirs runs a little longer than the cave tubing. So keep that in mind if you have some cruise ship passengers in your van that are doing the kayaking instead of the cave tubing. You're going to have to wait for them to return before you can leave. But we did make it back to the port area with plenty of time. We were able to shop. We had lunch. We had some great frozen drinks in that restaurant that's right there by the pickup for the tender boats, and you don't have to worry about missing your last tender boat, even though it is quite a ways to get to the site and back. But all in all, for me, it was a great experience. Try it if you found the video interesting, because all in all, I think that it's a great way to have a good time in Belize for the short amount of time that you're there. Until next time, good night. I'm going to sleep now.